This program is intended for a mature audience. If you are not 18 years old, stop listening and find more age-appropriate content. If you are offended by any content herein, that is your own problem, as you have been warned. Do not try this at home.
Release the Kraken!
Because I am ready, and I will not let this opportunity slip through my fingers. Cup of coffee, man, yeah. Man! Wow, man!
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
Oh, I am enjoying this.
Get on with it!
Leroy Jenkins. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Turtle Donut Comedy, brought to you by Monday Night COVID, brought to you by Ideal Vapor, LLC in Portage, Wisconsin. In the studio with us is Richard Garcia.
Hello.
Hey, Richard. How do you want to start the show tonight, Richard?
Sponsors. I think sponsors is the best way to start the show.
Well, I mean, I already did that. Ideal Vapor, LLC, located in Portage, Wisconsin. Have you not been listening?
I've been drinking all day. Anyway, no, I think this is the perfect way to start the show. Our guest, Robert Luigi Parr. How you doing?
Hi.
It's good to have you here, man. Good to have you here.
Oh, awesome to be here, guys. Thank you so
now,
much.
Robert Luigi Parr, if you're in the comedy scene between Chicago and Madison, you know who he is. He's a profound figure in there. He produces shows. He's done a lot of shows, and in terms of like the Janesville comedy scene, he's something that's really influenced that, because it's a really new grassroots thing. We haven't had an open mic, and I remember meeting him last year, and he picked me up, and he picked Dalton up.
Yeah, he took us under his wing. Like Drillbit Taylor, just as homeless as the movie.
Exactly. Exactly. And if it wasn't for Robert Luigi Parr, me and Dalton would not have gone down the comedy rabbit hole as we did. So thank you for that.
It was absolutely my pleasure. It was a wondrous time to really see you guys thrive. When I first met you guys, it looked like you guys both had the experience behind you because you both had been doing comedy for a few years, but you just didn't know where to take it. And I had been doing comedy in other areas, so I was glad to kind of meet up with you and kind of show you different avenues and different bars and different scenarios to where you could project your gift and learn a lot more than you guys had previously found.
And it was so cool because I had a music open mic where I was the only comic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember that one.
Only comic at a music open mic where no one gives a fuck about comedy is the loneliest story ever. And then you came to a mic where I quit comedy. I quit comedy for a couple months because I'm like, fuck this. I was like, done. I was like, done with this mic. I was like, fucking, I don't know anyone that did comedy. I bombed so hard so many times. And then you came to an open mic and you're like, I'm going to do comedy. And I'm like, fuck, I got some jokes. So I dusted off the cobwebs of my jokes and you did your set and I did my sketchy set. And then you introduced all these open mics to me. And then I pulled Dalton and I'm like, Dalton, this guy also does comedy. And it kind of branched off from there. That was cool.
Yeah, well, the funniest thing about the first time meeting you, what led me down to that open mic was the fact that it was a bar that is heavily centered around St. Patrick's Day in our area. So of course I was going to be there. I'm half Irish, big lover of St. Patrick's Day, and of course I was there for St. Patrick's Day of 2018. Sorry, yeah, was it 2008?
I think it was last year. It was 19. It was just a year ago. It seems long, but
it seems a lot longer,
doesn't it?
So 2019, and while I was there, I met the owner, and I realized that he had kicked me out of his establishment 3 years prior on St. Patrick's Day for being a drunk, obnoxious asshole.
Of course.
And I've always felt bad because when he kicked me out, I had no problem leaving because I was a drunk asshole, and I knew I was a drunk asshole, but I purposefully left no tip as I signed my credit card.
He will remember you forever. I bartended.
So listen. So I went down there and I was like, I remember what that person was wearing. I don't care who it is. If that person's working this St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to make it up to him and I'm going to give him a $20 bill. Mm-hmm. And so I found out who it was. I was like, dude, did you wear that same outfit 3 years ago for St. Patrick's Day? He's like, yeah, I wear this every St. Patrick's Day. I was like, he's like, I'm the owner. I said, you kicked me out 3 years ago. He's like, yeah, I remember. I said, fantastic. I said, here's $20. I'm sorry about what I did to you. I've always felt bad that I left you with no tip. And him and I started a conversation about that. And through there, I told him I was a comedian, and he told me about the open mic, that it was happening on Mondays, and said that it was just trying to get off the ground. And I said, you know what? I'm going to show up tomorrow.
Oh, really? That's the origin. Cool. I didn't know that.
I showed up the next day and met you.
Nice.
So it was me getting kicked out of the bar 3 years previous that led to me giving the owner $20 and meeting Richard Garcia. And I'm not sure if that's a good origin story.
That's great.
I mean, not all origin stories are particularly noteworthy. I mean,
yeah.
It's cool how it's like if this didn't happen and that, it's just cool how it all wrapped up. But what I was saying before, as a bartender, because people come up to me, oh, I'm sorry, I was fucked up. People get so embarrassed how they act at the bar. I literally don't remember it because there's so many fucked up people at the bar. But the people I do remember, there's 2 people in my life that did not tip. So if you don't tip, you're going to you will stick out if you don't. That's the only way to really, unless you do something super fucking crazy. Like, yeah, that's the best.
Well, I remember the next week I tried to go down there, but the bar had just closed for renovations.
Well,
I couldn't go back there to go ahead and tip the person at that moment in time to go tip, just in case any listeners are wondering, like, well, you could just tip that the next week. Well, I tried, but the bar was closed for renovations and they were closed for 6 months.
Yeah.
So I literally was like, well, I'm going to try and do it on St. Patrick's Day. It was the year, and it all led to the path that we found each other, and we started up the Janesville comedy scene together, along with Brandon Cassidy, and so that we were able to take all of our ideas, really put them into one spot, and flourish it. So
that was really cool. And what I loved about that mic before, and obviously the mic we have now, the pure comedy mic, is great. We have a lot of momentum. Yeah. Only comics there. We have such a good crowd. But back then, it was such a hostile crowd because nobody gave a fuck about comedy. People were there to have a burger. And then we had us fucking big hairy assholes go on stage talking about our dicks and whatnot. And but I feel like that rough, because I remember the beginning where me, you, Brandon, and Jack started like really performing. And like those rough crowds really helped me in the long run. So after doing that mic that was so rough, and then you introduced me to like the Rockford scene and all the mics in Illinois, I felt so empowered because I'm like, thank God they're actually here for. I didn't even care if I did good. I'm just like, they're actually here for comedy.
Well, the rough crowds are the best crowds to really. If you have a joke that you know is going to be the best joke of your artillery, and you can put down a set where you're like, okay, this joke, to where it's a good solid, I would say at least 5 minutes, to where that 5 minutes is your quote unquote, your tight 5.
Yep, tight 5.
Your late show tight 5 is what they call it, and you can take that to a place where you're going to face a hostile type of crowd. Like for me, I took Dalton down there. It didn't pan out because
down where
I took Dalton to this bar down in Rockford. It didn't pan out because
which one was it?
I can't mention it because they're not sponsored.
And I don't remember.
Yeah,
where the
Rockford bar. Just everyone put that image in your head.
It was a seedy Rockford bar that will not sponsor anything, but I will say it was a crack bar. And
now don't say the name.
They specialize in crack and meth accessories. And I took Dalton down there, and it was an open mic that did not end up playing through just because of the fact that I think the guy was too drunk to show up. But unfortunately, that was the mic that I really wanted to show Dalton, like, hey, look, man, this is the type of crowd that you need to try to entertain. Because if this is the kind of crowd that you can get their attention and you can get them to stop what they're doing, focus on you, and then laugh, that's a solid joke.
Yep.
So go for those open mics that are the hardest, that are the quote-unquote ambush mics. The mics are in the hardest places. Those music open mics that you have to quote unquote hijack so that you can go ahead and just thrive as a performer because you will learn more out of the most intense nights that you have in comedy than you will ever have having an easy night.
Crushing it, yep. And one thing that was so cool was, like I said before, I like quit comedy. I did a Cardi B rap. I did a Cardi B rap at the bar, and I promoted it. And I had a Photoshop photo of it, and it was this goofy little rap. And I expected to perform in front of the 6 to 15 people that showed up for the Monday open mic because it was the winter, right? It's the winter, and no one's at the open mic anyway. So I get this rap ready, but it's the first day of spring. So the bar is completely packed with regulars who didn't even know there was an open mic because they weren't there in the winter. Like middle-aged, like no one even knew who Cardi B was. So I had this stupid fucking Cardi B rap, and I knew one person in the audience. And I opened up with, can I get a world star from the back? And it was just fucking, not silence. People are like, was the silence hard to deal with? I could deal with silence. They just talked over me. And I did the rap, and I bombed so fucking hard. I quit for 2 months. And then I went to Madison and bombed. I was just in a tough place in life. I was just bombing over and over again. I'm like, fuck this mic. Fuck comedy. I'm like, maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's just a dream I've held on that isn't a real dream. And then I met you. And I remember we're going to an open mic. It was shout out to Marcos Loras. He has a great influence in the
Marcos Lara.
Marcos
I never claimed to be a smart man.
You've never claimed to be Mexican either.
Yeah,
like a last name like Garcia.
Ooh. Hey, I'm like the ice cream. Anyway, so we're going to this mic, and then before, when I did open mics, I seriously had to practice for like 2 weeks. Like 2 weeks. If it was like 3 days before an open mic and I didn't practice, I'd be like, I'm done. I can't do it. I need all this time. And we're driving down to Loves Park, the VFW. Is that Loves Park?
That was Loves Park, yeah.
So we're driving down there, and I'm telling you, I'm like, hey, Robert, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be at the open mic. I'm not going to perform. I'm not ready. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's exactly how you put it. I believe that you had your head on the window the entire time going, I just don't feel it tonight, guys. I'm just not doing it. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, Dalton. Does that sound more like Richard?
It sounds a lot like Richard. We've had so many shows where we're so many car rides where we're going up. Everybody's talking about how excited we are to do our material, and Richard's just like, guys, I'm just kind of not feeling it tonight. He may as well just be saying, just pull over at the next stop. I'll take a fucking Uber home. I'll suck someone's dick for a ride home.
I'll suck someone's dick for a ride home. Just not.
And then we get to the road. And we get to the fucking show. He's slumped in a corner, just depressed. And we're all, just doing whatever, getting ready for the show. And then by the time it gets to Richard's turn, we find out that he was in the corner just writing material like a fucking boss. And he goes up there, commands the crowd off of shit that he wrote 5 minutes before he went on stage.
Yeah.
Just absolutely blows it out of the water. And then that son of a bitch will ride that high for the next month.
Yeah,
that's how I write, is when I'm backed in the corner, then I can shoot from the hip. But if I have any time at all, I just panic. But it was so interesting because so we're driving and I'm telling him I'm not ready, and he gives me this fucking Rocky Balboa pep talk of like, you got to show up, man. He's like, if you want to be a fucking comic, it doesn't matter. You need to show up. And he's telling me all this shit that's happened to him, like bad stuff that's happened to him, and he still rises up and goes. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll go on stage. I go to the VFW, and that was like the first actual mic I've been to in like years, honestly, like a long time. And I did so well at that show. I got a guest spot from it, and that's such a pinnacle moment in my life, such a shift, because that was where the snowball started rolling. I got that guest spot, and you even told me, I think it may have even been on the ride there, you're like, just listen to me, I know comedy. He's like, I can get you places. He's like, I felt like you were the old veteran that knew all the tricks, and we were like the young, fiery, young guns, just firing off. And you told me that, and then I got that guest spot, and then eventually I got an opening gig, and eventually I got a hosting gig, and then eventually I went on tour to fucking Lincoln. But that was like,
welcome to fucking Turtle Donut Comedy, where Richard can't stop sucking his own dick.
Bro, I'm flexible, man. But still, like, yeah, I am sucking my own dick here. But at the same time, I credit that to Robert,
Yeah.
He was the momentum of that snowball that caused me to suck my own dick.
Well, I'm glad I could help out in various ways.
Robert the Fluffer.
If there's anything that could be said about my career, at least I've made Richard Garcia suck his own dick.
But
I mean, but that's just how comedy is. You get into you get into a spot where you're comfortable and you think you've learned a lot, and then you end up meeting somebody who's learned it in a completely different fashion or knows something on a different level, and then you learn from that person.
Yeah.
And then right when you're about ready to graduate from that level, it seems like you start to meet somebody else that's like 1 or 2 tiers above you, and you start to learn from that person. It's a growth community if you allow it. As long as you're not an asshole that's just trying to go out there for shock value, it's a very type of close-knit family that wants everybody to grow. And it's a community that I'm glad to be a part of, and I'm glad that I was a part of for so long.
I have to slightly disagree with you there in the aspect. I think the comedy community we have is very tight-knit and close. Because when I first started comedy, I thought it was a lone wolf discipline. I thought it was like every man for himself. And that's how I approached it. And you approached it from a different angle. So like the story I told you about me and like you snowballing that and all that stuff, did you have anyone influencing you? Did you have mentors? Did you have anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Like I got my first start back in April of 2012. So in March of 2012, I went and saw a comedy show. There was the first ever comedy show that I ever saw that came down to Beloit, where I was living at the time. And so some friends and I went out and saw it. And the people, just for whatever reason, they had the full attention of the crowd, and the crowd did not laugh the entire time. Like, they had a host, they had an opener, they had a feature spot, they had a headliner. And the entire time, they maybe got, amongst all of them, 4 laughs. It was brutal to fucking watch, and I just went away with that. It was a packed crowd, and everyone was literally watching them. No one was talking, and it just wasn't the right comedy for the right crowd. And that's all it really was. And I said, wow, if they're fucking getting paid for this, I have a shot. You know, that was as strange as it was, that was the enthusiasm I needed to really get off my ass and try this.
I can be as bad as them.
I can do better than them and not get paid. And so like that was my whole thing. And so I went up to one of the guys afterwards where he was kind of in the corner smoking a cigarette, and I was like, hey, how do you start this? And he's like, hey, I know like there's an open mic that's like 10 miles away.
Do you remember who it was?
You know, I worked with all those guys later on, and I know who it was, but we had a falling out years later, and I don't want to put it on air.
Yep.
And there's a lot of feuds that come with comedy too, as well. You know, you just got to make sure you pick your battles wisely. And so he's like, hey, I started this mic. It's about 10 miles away from here. It's run by this guy, and he'll kind of help you out. So I drove from Beloit to Janesville and had my first mic at the wonderful, at the time was Best Western, is now the Ramada Inn, at the lovely, I think it's Shooter's Lounge or whatever. What kind of lounge is it? Or it was Al Fresco's Lounge at the time. But there was the bar inside the hotel right off Milton Avenue across the street from the Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, I think I know where you're talking about, but I can't get the name.
Yeah, it was Al Fresco's for the longest time. Is it still that? No,
Still good?
So,
No,
it's
no.
not that. Okay, our producer's saying no.
Richard, I'm pretty sure that you took me there for karaoke one night.
Where?
Because I think I know the exact bar that he's talking about.
Where's it at? What city?
It's
Best
inside a
Western.
hotel.
It's inside the Best West.
Fuzzy.
Oh, yeah, it's Fuzzy's.
Fuzzy.
Fuzzy's
Yeah,
now.
It's
Yeah.
American Inn. It's American Inn.
Ah, okay.
No, it's not. It's Ramada. I stayed there when I left my girlfriend.
Then fuck me.
But
Never mind. I'm not a smart man. Never claimed to be.
no, actually, it is American. No.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe
you're
I
right.
am.
You're right.
Oh.
You're right. I'm sorry. They changed ownership. They went from Ramada to American. You're right.
See what happens when you stay humble?
Hey, love you. Boop. All right. So that was where I went for my first open mic, was a bar that was inside a hotel. And I showed up, and
Starter's Bar and Grill.
I met Marcos Lara, and I got there. I was coming from my job in Broadhead, Wisconsin, which is about 35 minutes away. I got out of work extremely late. Next thing you know, got there a little bit later than anticipated, and I was like, "Oh, I can still go on the show. It's an open mic. I can still get on the show." From what I heard.
Quick shout out to two people who are listening live right now: Mark Livingston, the Grape Ape, and Jose Montero. What's up, guys?
Hey, Jose!
Shout out to Jose. I love you.
Yeah, thanks, guys, so much. Appreciate it. And then I went ahead and so I showed up, and I was really kind of hoping to still do my stuff, even though I showed up a little bit late. But right before I showed up, apparently there was a truck driver who was staying at the hotel, did not want to hear any type of comedy, did not want to hear any type of Marcos's antics, and paid Marcos $20 to get the fuck off stage and shut it down for the night.
Oh my God.
And Marcos, if you know Marcos Laura, he took the $20 and shut it down. Because he likes to make money. So
then there's me, and I like the sound of my own voice so much I wouldn't have taken it.
Fuck it.
So
I'll give you $20 to stay.
I said, hey, I want to do comedy. He's like, not fucking tonight, you're not. And so I said, okay, well, he's like, look, this guy just gave you $20 to get off stage. If you want to get up there and try your luck, have at it. But I would tell you, tonight is not the night. And I said, okay. He's like, come back next week. I'll go ahead. He gave me like a 20-minute lecture on why I should not be a comic. But he said, he ended it with, if you come back next week, I'll give you 10 minutes. I said, okay. And then he was surprised when I showed up the next week. And I had 10 minutes. And I went there and I did my shot. And I took it. And it was pretty well, and I did as best as I could, and had some pretty good applause or some pretty good laughs, and I think I had one applause break, and that was
applause breaks. Oh, those are so good.
It was pretty nice, and so I left feeling a really good high.
Yep.
Also, a quick shout out to J-Mac in the chat. Welcome.
And Marcos literally said, look, you did it great. You popped your cherry very well. Your next week, I want you to come back with, and do this again. So I wrote out another 10 minutes.
Jesus. That's so long.
Exactly. I wrote out another 10 minutes throughout the entire week. I did my homework. I did my best.
Yep.
And I showed up, and he was so thankful and so surprised to see me. He literally said, oh my God, thank God, another comic. And I said,
yep.
I'm a comic now? And he said, yes. He goes, you're the only one that showed up. So it was just me and Marcos Laura, and this is my second week of doing comedy, my second mic ever. And he goes, how much time can you do? Because I promised this bar 90 minutes.
What?
And I said, you told me to plan for 10. And he said, yeah, how much time can you do? I said, 11. He said, we're fucked.
Not including applause break.
Yeah. And I remembered that. I will always remember that, Mike, because it was the bartender, the bartender's friend, a truck driver, and my friend. And no one really gave a shit. We went out there and we did our best. And Marcos was on there for like 30 minutes. It was very hard, 30. And I went up there and he ended with just, all right, will you guys just fucking listen to him? Because this is the second week. Just give him a shot.
Give him a shot, please. Please.
And just laugh at his shit, And I went up there and did my 10, and I got off stage, and he said, that was brutal, but you did a 10-minute set. Like, it was a full packed house. He goes, that is you can't teach that. And he's like, in that moment, he said, I want you to start looking at, come down to my other open mic in Rockford, and I want you to, and from there I did that show, and then he said, all right, I want you to look at this one, and he took me on his wing, and from there I learned a lot about the business, and Marcos and I traveled to Madison together, we traveled to Chicago together, we traveled to Milwaukee together, and we did a lot of stuff together just because through him I was able to learn about the backside of the business and how to address things up front, as well as how to address a crowd, how to read your crowd, and how to just change things on the fly. it was so much to take in right off the bat, and I was able to do that with him. So
No, that's what I saw from you, and I think it's a cool thing that you kind of brought that on with me and Dalton, the advisor role, and you weren't afraid to give critiques. And the frustrating thing with comedy is like, how'd I do? And everyone's like, you did great, you did awesome, you did. It's like, bitch, I don't want to hear that because I was on stage. What did I do? Where's the timing? Where's this and that? But real quick though, before we get too down the rabbit hole, because you shared your perspective of the first time we met, and I shared mine. Dalton, where were you at when you got sucked into this? What was your mindset?
Because around the time that you and Robert were going to all these open mics, you had already left the post office for like 6 months by that point. I was still working there, and so like I would hear about your guys' misadventures, and honestly, like it made me a little jealous. That's when I like really took the leap. I quit the post office, and the order wasn't really like that. I came down on one of my off days, and I did an open mic, and that was when I met you and Brandon Cassidy. And I just remember how amazing it was, just seeing other comedians in Janesville. And like I remember I did just some bullshit material that I'd written after high school.
I gotta say, you did not impress me your first night.
Talk to a lot of my exes.
Touché.
And I remember like I was excited like asking you guys for notes because like originally it was like I'd talk to my family members like, hey, how'd I do? They didn't give me any critiques on any of that shit. I'd talk to Richard, and Richard would like give me some feedback. So like it was interesting talking to other people, like-minded people who were willing to really help out with the craft. And so I was like, all right, maybe it'd be worth taking a dive in and trying this, because like even though I didn't do very great that night, it was like one of the greatest nights that I'd ever had while I was working at the post office. So like I quit that job and I came down and I started jumping in. Like the first 3 months that I started hitting up open mics with you guys, I was unemployed like the whole fucking time. So anytime someone would say that there was an open mic, I was like, fuck it, yeah, let's go. Like I'd never had that drive to do comedy before. And I'll still tell people I've done stand-up comedy for 8 years, but like over the past year I've done it more than I have over the past 8 years.
I never say 8 years because it was so spotty how much we did it. Like I don't consider myself an 8-year comic, but I held on to that dream because I had that dream in high school, and I just held on to it for whatever reason. My identity was so conflicted, especially like I said, I bombed before. I was like, should I even do comedy? Like, is this a weird dream I'm not even good at? Luckily, you re-sparked that. You have been such a good support with it. But I thought one thing I maybe touch on a little bit, Dalton, what was interesting seeing you in comedy, because you started out, and a lot of new people start out this way. They go on stage and they're like, I'm a comedy guy. Like, and it's like, if you're more yourself, that's when you're the best, because you come off as genuine. I saw a big shift in your comedy. You went from comedy got to like something more organic. Did you notice that?
It wasn't really something I noticed. Like it was just I changed up the way that I wrote my material. I started writing things based on how I viewed them, and I started writing things, this is just reiterating myself, my point of view. Or just things that related to me. Because, like, my old material, I did, like, I was essentially trying to be, like, a stand-up sketch artist. You know, like, I'd write skits to tell on stage, and they never really worked out because it was somehow dissociating the material from the crowd. Because, in my opinion, the comedian's supposed to be the conduit to translate that material between yourself to the crowd. And when you're just trying to do something as a character, people don't understand that the person that they're looking at is just playing a character, or if you're doing this dumb idea, or I wrote like a joke fucking Kindergarten Cop 2 trailer, and it just never translated well with the crowd. But then once I started telling like stories and just talking about how embarrassing of a child I was, once I started relating to the crowd or opening up, that's when my voice started coming out.
So
exactly.
One thing I went through, especially early comics always go through this, is where they almost do skits on stage. They're like, I have my here's my act, like a fucking circus kind of thing. But that's not what comedy is. Comedy is a communication between you and it's a conversation to a certain extent. And like the bits you had before you found your voice, you couldn't improvise that because it's just, there's no way to interrupt it. You know what I mean? Like your Drakel bit, like where you play this character, you're not supposed to go off rails. You're not supposed to be interrupted. You're not supposed to do that. But you were able to easily shift off of that.
Well, and then like at the same time, I do admire like one-man shows or like things where someone's just I enjoy theater. I love plays. I've done theater in the past, and I treated it like a monologue, but it wasn't the right place for it. And honestly, when you're performing to people who are just in a bar enjoying their meal, they don't want to hear about someone giving some fucked up version of how to have safe sex.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, the thing is that to remember is the fact that young comics, when they first arrive on the scene, they're trying to tell the audience what they want.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to hear from the audience what the audience wants.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest thing that I try to convey to you guys and try to convey to new comics is that you need to relate to the crowd. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere in this business. If you go up there and you want to say, like, okay, this is a bad example, and, I'm sorry, listeners, I have none of these.
Don't second guess yourself. Just jump in.
Yeah.
This is Robert, the real person he is. This is Robert 100%.
Robert Luigi Parr.
This is not Robert 100%. But, for rape jokes.
Okay, this is not 100%
Yeah.
Robert.
This is not Robert Luigi Parr, everybody.
But what I'm saying is I have observed a lot of new comics go up there and say that, say a lot of rape jokes when they're brand new just because of the fact that they have a microphone, they've wrote them down, and they want to do that. And they believe that them getting on stage and having the microphone gives them the power to do that. Mm-hmm. And they want to make it as a comedian. They want to make it in this business. And I just literally tell them, if you want to make it in this business, you can't do that shit. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to relate to the crowd. And you're not going to relate to the crowd by being controversial for no reason. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're going to be controversial for a reason in a storyline because where you kind of come out as an asshole, then the audience is going to come along with you for the ride. Because the audience is going to laugh at you, and the audience is going to, kind of play both sides of the story. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, you can't just go up there and say exactly what you want all the time and expect you to make headway in this business.
Yep. And it's actually really interesting that you bring this up because one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, like some of the biggest mistakes that new comics tend to make. Like there are people who, like you said, they try to be controversial just for the sake of being controversial. They don't really understand the art because, people like George Carlin or Louis C.K. or even Bill Burr, they understood this as an art form. Like you gain the attention and the trust of the crowd. Then you say that fucked up thing, but you bring them back in some kind of way, and these comics don't understand that.
Exactly. It's a push and pull. It's a push and pull. That's all it is. And that's one of the things I originally told you. I can't remember which one of you, because you guys both blend together. I can't remember which one of you guys.
We look so alike.
They get confused all the time.
I just hang out with both of you at so many fucking times. I can't remember which one I'm talking to.
I do think Richard and I do get grouped together a little bit, like we grouped together Adam and Jake.
Because you guys are married at this point. But I'm just saying this. I can't remember which one I told you guys, but one of you guys had a joke, and I literally told you guys that there's no reason to be controversial for no reason.
That was me. That was me, and I don't want to talk about it. But so here's my style of comedy. I like to think this is my style. I don't like to cross the line, but I like to get on a skateboard and do a sweet grind on it. But what's frustrating for me having a local mic, and give me your input on this, having a local mic is I like to push the line to just see how far I can go. Sometimes I'll go on the mic and just to see, I call it gauging, like how far can I go? And then I'll pull back depending on how far it is. But with a regular mic, I had this conversation with a local. I bombed one night, I bombed. And then I was telling him, oh, it's new material. I have my Goldie stuff. He's like, why didn't you do your good stuff? I'm like, I already know it's good. He's like, but if you knew the good stuff worked, why didn't you do it? And I'm like, but I need to practice. Like, he didn't understand. And people associate people's acts with them. Like, if I had a guitar and I played really badly, no one would be like, that's a piece of shit human being. But if I go on the mic and I say a joke, all I want to do is make you laugh. But I go and people judge comics by their material.
Absolutely. Because, like I keep telling everybody else, the way that we think about material, the way that we think about a joke, it takes such a long process for you to get that joke down, for you to write that joke, for you to
have the courage to go on stage.
No. Even after that. But let's say you're writing a new joke. It takes you so long for you to misconstrue the situation in your head to be able to write it down in joke form. And then you write it down in joke form, and then what you have to do, you have to trim out the fat. So you have to take out the words that don't make sense or aren't there for any type of situation. And, like, okay, well, this joke right now is 90 seconds. I can tighten this down to good 45. So you trim it up. So, and then you say it on stage, and if it doesn't go in the correct way, then you have to change up the word order. It's a long process in order to do that. And a lot of people don't realize that. Some people just think that you're going up there and you're just spitballing. And as comics, that's what you kind of want. That's the idea that you kind of want to perceive. Is that you're going up there and you just have this all at the ready.
Just quickly to mention, so with hecklers, a lot of times I've done so many mics and so many jokes and so many different crowds. I've heard 10 different reactions.
Well, hold on a second. We're talking about two different things. Because what I'm saying is you're going ahead and you spend so much time with that joke tends to be part of you.
Okay.
So this is going to sound like a little bit of a cliche, but those jokes almost end up being your children.
Yeah.
In a way, because you spend so much time taking care of them and trying to raise them up in such a way.
And you don't want to let them go sometimes.
And you don't want to
let them go.
But, and then so you go up there, and you're going to be judged harshly if the crowd hates him, So when you go up there and you have a bomb set, that's why it feels so fucking bad. Is because in your heart, you know that not only does the crowd hate the jokes, but the crowd hates you as a person. Because you spent all that time with the jokes, that the jokes are now a part of you.
Yep.
So that's both ways. So if the jokes are a part of you, then you are a part of the jokes. So if you're going to go up there and say racist jokes, you can't come off and say, well, I'm not really racist. That's just the character I say on TV.
Yeah.
Or I play on stage. Like Alex Jones says. It's just fucking bullshit. So, I mean, you have to identify with the crowd and be real about it. Because otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So, on the hecklers.
That's the thing I was going to say with the hecklers, like you talked about you want to be as organic on stage as possible, and maybe it's different for other comics. I'm assuming it's the same, but like I've done the same joke 20 times in front of 20 different crowds, and maybe I bombed 19 times, but like I have a quip for whatever reaction, right? So it's like if they ooh, I have a quip for that. If they ah, I have a quip for that. If it's silent, I have a quip for that. You know what I mean? Like I have it in my back pocket, and they think it's like an in the moment thing, but it's not. It's just something I've gone through a lot.
Which joke is this?
There's just a lot of jokes I have. There's some bits I don't want to break down my whole bit. I always feel awkward doing a bit just freehand. But you know what I mean, right? Where it's like, but a quick conversation shift. I just wanted to get to this. So Robert, in terms of your comedy career, you've had a certain. You're respected in the comedy community. You're known.
Hopefully.
You've been here for a while. You're at least known, maybe notorious. But you have an announcement to make?
Yeah. It's kind of hard for me, guys. But I'm glad to be able to do this on here. as of right now, this is a real announcement. I'm going to effectively announce my retirement on this show from stand-up comedy, just because of the fact that in 2017 I was diagnosed with I had a seizure and had to go in for that whole kind of protocol. Once I got out of this 3 months of making sure I wasn't going to have another seizure again, I then had cancer and had to beat that for all of 2018. At which point the seizure stuff started to resurge, and they found a black spot on my brain, and I had to take some seizure medications now, and it's making my thought process a lot more difficult. So it screws up my memory. It's not able to, it's hindering my thought process. And I just noticed over the last year that while I'm on stage, I'm losing my train of thought a lot. So it's just bringing down the overall crowd experience. I've gone out there with a lot more notes. I'll study a lot harder for my stage time, and it's not had any positive effect. So I'm still going there with even more notes and looking at them and just not being able to make sense out of them. So that being said, I'm very grateful for the opportunities I've had in this business, but I'm going to be able to know when the curtain call is and step aside.
So, for all the single ladies, what's your ideal first date?
Gentle walk on the beach while playing Monopoly.
No, I'm really happy that you brought up that you've come here to give us this news, and as your friend, I really respect your decision, and
thank you.
I hope the best for you, and like
I said, it wasn't easy. It's just something that I would rather make the decision now instead of me continuously falling and declining in my comedic ability, because the medication I'm taking, I have trouble finding my words, as your listeners are probably gonna probably hear right now. So this type of stuff is difficult for me. So improv is especially hard, and it's just taking a toll on me. And I'm really noticed that my short-term memory has taken a severe hit, and but this isn't the end for me. This is a new beginning, because I still want to remain in the scene, and I'm going to focus my attributes elsewhere, and focus on maintaining a producer role inside the Janesville community scene, and try to take our community scene to the next level, so that you guys can, you guys along with Jose Montero and Brandon Cassidy and everybody else can go ahead and just focus on your comedy, while I take the reins to make sure that we had the venues lined up.
Yeah, you and I were actually just talking about this just the other night, and I'm glad that you're not 100% like stepping down from comedy in general, because I know that, at least for the past 8 years, comedy's been very close to your heart, and
absolutely,
it would break my heart to see you have to step down from this altogether.
It was a very difficult realization, but over time, you just gotta, that's what life is. Life is a series of curveballs, and life has given me enough curveballs to the point where I wound up in the comedy business, and life has given me enough curveballs to where I need to access my ability in different ways inside the comedy business. So
that's good. I appreciate it, and one thing I feel like you're taking a healthy step, because you told me, like, when we first started doing comedy again, you first started, right? Like, when you started doing the open mics with me, that's when you started up again?
Well, no, I've been going steadily for quite a while.
Okay. You always said how much comedy meant to you, and it means a lot to me, because to me, like, I came to a realization, like, I'll go on stage drunk or depressed or not wanting to go, I'm just always attracted to stage. And I've had so many like days where I just bomb. But I need comedy. I need it no matter what. And I was actually going to quit before you retired. I actually quit. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to quit my bartending job. I'm going to get a factory job. I'm going to do this. And when I heard you retired, that like inspired me so much. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, he's in a position where he can't do comedy. Like, it's unfortunate, and I'm sorry, and it sucks, and I feel for you, dude.
I don't want. Look, I've had a hard life. I would even say a hard life. I haven't had an easy life, and it's a life that's. I battled homelessness and abandonment off and on my entire life. I've been homeless since the age of 14, on and off my entire life. And I'm looking to buy a house now for the first time in my life, just so I could actually set roots down somewhere. Yeah. And to me, that's somewhere, the first day that I get those keys, I can be like, look, this is where someone who went from living in their car got to, you know? And so when someone says, hey, I'm sorry that you have to go down this road, it makes no sense to me because this is the only road I know.
Yeah.
And all those bad things that happen and all the good things that happen, those make the incredible person that I am. And those allow me to meet great people like the 3 people that I have here in this room so that my life can still flourish no matter what comes my way.
Man, fucking put that into a White Snake song.
God fucking damn it.
Here I go again on my own.
That's
good.
What? But like, that's why I wanted you on here. I wanted you to talk about this story because like it inspired me. And I'm like, fuck it, man. I got to go for it. I got to shoot until I can't stop. You know what I mean? Like eventually, maybe I'll have wife and kids. Maybe something will happen. Maybe.
Sorry.
Maybe. I won't have be in a position.
The kids have already happened
to where I can do comedy. So I think it's a really cool thing, and I think you're approaching it in a healthy way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I gotta tell you, I thought about the retirement aspect for about 2 months, 3 months before I had even told another person, because I wanted to make sure that it was something that I was okay with before I even heard the words out loud in my, being voiced to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And then once I did, and I said, I said my piece about it, they were supportive, for the reasons because they knew that it was the right call. And then slowly but surely, I started telling certain friends to gauge what their reactions would be. And, I got a lot of, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. We come to your comedy shows just to see you, and I said, I know, but now you can come to my comedy shows to see the great acts that I book.
And also pay me.
Yeah, you assholes. I still need money, but I was like, but now I said, just because I'm not going to be on the bill doesn't mean that there's going to be a decline in the show quality. That just means that there's going to be other people that you're going to be able to see that are going to be as good or better than me. Mm-hmm. That are going to show out just, and just be just as impressive.
So Dalton, what was your reaction when you first heard about Robert's retirement?
I was actually wondering if you would let Richard and me fight over your bits. See which ones we can have.
Scrap them. I call the onion rings on the cock. I like that one. I like the 3-way with the chihuahua. You can have everything else. Those are my favorite bits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, Mortal Kombat. I want Mortal Kombat 2.
But that one goes so well with all my other stuff. But onion rings on the cock, that's not Hey Beautiful Women, is it? Because that one's my favorite one.
Yeah, that's Hey Beautiful Women.
Dude, Hey Beautiful Women, that one's just my favorite bit that you have. Fucking it's such a perfect fucking bit.
Yeah,
like it gets the crowd going. And
if your listeners aren't familiar with that bit, that was the I'm starting to really hate beautiful single women because they don't want to talk to me at all because I'm a big fat guy, as my voice would probably lend you to think. And, so I'm a big fat guy, and I got and so I was like, every time I was doing a comedy show, I'd start to talk like that. There's always like one beautiful girl that was like, "I'll date you." I was like, "You're a fucking liar.
You're a fucking lying piece of shit.
I know you're a fucking liar because you know what? You and I might wind up on a date. You and I might wind up in the backseat of my Nissan Altima sharing a bucket of fried chicken because I know all the best fucking restaurants there are in a 50 fucking mile radius. All right, but you're not going to do it. You know why? Yeah. Because you care about your figure, and that's all there is to it.
Richard, that one literally does not speak to your personality at all.
I was also going to say, can I have the water park one?
I'll take that one, but you can get his cancer material.
Yeah, there you go. You can get cancer.
I did have one.
But no, the thing was is that
you can lift up your shirt and show your kidney scar. Tell people that
I had a cancerous kidney.
No, but going back to that beautiful women part, I remember the day I thought about that bit. I thought of that bit when I was sitting next to this girl named Kelly while I was working, and I really, really wanted to do naughty stuff to her that was outlawed in the Bible. And
oh Lord. And fear crawfish.
And she looked at me like, with the friend zone look. And
oh no,
like we made each other laugh throughout the day just to get through the day. But I knew she was way out of my league and she was never going to date me. It probably had something to do with that she was 7 months pregnant. But I wrote that bit immediately while thinking about her and talking to her, and I forwarded it to her in an email while we were working, and she just could not stop laughing. I was like, "That's it, I got it," and so yeah.
Well, and like what I love, my favorite part of the joke comes in the closer, just because it's just a weirdly poetic closer. Like it announces your name, and like what was it? Rihanna said, "If you like it, you better put a ring on it." Well,
Beyonce
said that.
If you like it, you better put a ring on it. But I'm Robert Luigi Parr, and if you like it, you should put an onion ring on it. Date a fat guy because your life is going to change forever, and so will your waistband.
Like you can put that on a fucking T-shirt. I just love that so much.
Bumper sticker.
I literally, I thought about touring, and I had some plans for touring that never came about. But if I was going to tour, I was going to put that on a T-shirt and put something to the effect of that you date a fat guy and put an onion ring on it. So I have no idea. I never actually designed T-shirts.
Well, it's like it was just such an out there fucking statement. Like only I could have come up with, or like I would have thought only I could have come up with that. So it's just like little bits like that. The way you wrote that closer, that
thank you.
It related to me.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Let me see here. What do I got in my notes? What made you want to apply for this position? Wait, no, fuck. Sorry, I googled some of these.
I didn't apply to be on here.
But like, so aside from getting pretty shitty pay, what aspect of doing comedy do you get the most fulfillment from?
Man, just the crowd, man. The crowd will tell you everything that you're doing right, and it's, they always say that the thing that every artist wants is recognition, and that's agreeable to some sort, but for comics, it's almost like a validation. It goes more than that.
Yeah.
Like we want a validation of our existence, a validation that we're doing something on the right track. And so when you go up there and you can you can stand in front of 20 to 30 people or 50 to 100 people, and you can make all of them stare at you for your 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes and not make them lose not make them lose focus and make them stay with you and laugh the entire time.
Yeah.
Then you know that you did right, and you get this amazing high that and you chase that the entire time. And it's also like I have this wonderful love for knowledge, and when I got into comedy, I realized that this wasn't something that you can learn through Wikipedia. This was something that you had to just go out and keep experiencing over and over and over again. And I'm proud to say that I have felt the highest I've ever been with comedy. And I've felt the lowest I've ever been with comedy.
Fucking seriously.
And someone once asked me, like, how describe in one sentence, how does it feel to be a comic? And I said, that's simple. When it goes right, you feel like celebrating with a bottle of Jameson. When it goes wrong, you feel like crawling into a bottle of Jameson and dying.
That's literally, yeah, that's a great metaphor.
Fucking put that on a
I
t-shirt,
always like
man.
to describe comedy like 80 to 90% of the time is just feeling like shit, but that 10%, that like 10% where you crush it, that's worth, that just makes it worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seriously, man. Fucking no, and I think that's exactly what caused Richard and me to like give up comedy so often, because we went on bombing so much. But I mean, that's just because, we were only doing like one open mic a week or even one per month. But then we started hanging out with you, and we started going to more open mics, and we started really learning the craft, and we started, having better and better sets consecutively. It was just
Absolutely.
even like before the whole COVID situation started. I remember you
Damn
and I started getting a little competitive when it came to the open mics, or at least
all three of us did. All three of us were trying to outshine each other, because
that's true.
You have to be that competitive style where you show up and you're like, okay, what do I have to do to be the funniest fuck in this room? Because that's the kind of mentality that you want. But at the same time, you don't want it to be so competitive to the point where if someone else beats you, you go, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah,
Your shit's not
toxic.
even good.
Yeah.
No,
You just, and you walk away butthurt as all hell. But you just want to go ahead and, if Richard beat us for the night, we're like, okay, good job. This is what you did. This is what we want to see from you every single night.
Yep.
You beat the shit out of me in Edgerton, Wisconsin. Like, you fucking... I was up to the minute trying to find a replacement for somebody, so I didn't get a lot of practice time and go over my notes and everything like that. You just walked through the door, it looked like you haven't checked your material in 2 fucking weeks, and just wiped the floor with me. And then, but I didn't take that opportunity to go ahead and, shun you. I literally just said, dude, this is what I want to see out of you every single time. Mm-hmm. What I did on stage, I don't want to see it on myself, because that was fucking embarrassing. But, that's, you want to have that competitive nature while still trying to be humble about it.
Exactly. And in my perspective, it's like, it's hard to not feel something like the envy, like when someone crushes it, and like that jealousy, because I do get jealous, but I have to like fight the emotions down. And when it's at the healthiest, it's steel sharpens steel. Because Dalton, you really influenced me in comedy, because I don't know if as soon as you started getting like good, I'm like, fuck, I'm supposed to be the funny guy. You inspired me. So like, as soon as you started crushing it, I'm like, fuck, I gotta keep up with Dalton. Like, this is...
Well, like, it was you that kickstarted that, though, because you were the one who started getting the bookings, and I was like, fuck, I got to start getting good. I got to start showing up to these open mics more and more. So I had to sharpen my own skills. Yeah, he's got to pick his nose for a minute. I had to sharpen my skills because, you started getting the benefits. And then, I guess you and I kind of slingshot off each other when it comes to
that
this.
was good. And what I kind of have to maybe not disagree with you, but maybe add on to it when you're like, we didn't do comedy because we bombed all the time. The thing I didn't realize I didn't have was the comedy community kind of thing. Like I said, I thought it was all lone wolf. I thought it's like every comic goes there for himself. Mm-hmm. I went to Madison. Madison was our first spot, and we were always outsiders there. And whatever, it's a deep-rooted scene. I love Madison. I think they have great comics. They have great, smart, amazing comics. But I always felt like an outsider there, and that was just kind of my mentality. And then when I met Robert, I even told him that. I'm like, yeah, comedy's about being a lone wolf. It's about being on your own. And then he introduced us to the scene, and we met fucking so many amazing people. Fucking Jose Montero, fucking Josh Bromfunksa, Andrew Knight, like all the Marcos, like all those people. And then I actually felt, and as soon as like felt like I was part of a scene, that's when I'm like, this is comedy. I love this. Like that's when it really branched out. Robert took a big big heaping shit, so he didn't hear what we just said. But what I was telling Dalton was what I to add on what he said before of us like not doing comedy because we bomb so much. To add on to that, part of it was I didn't feel. I thought comedy was like a lone wolf thing, like I said before. But as soon as I got introduced to you and your scene and your mentality of like, no, comedy is a community. We support each other.
You know, I love the fact that through me, you guys were able to meet this wonderful community and actually have a community to back you guys. You know, because I don't want you guys just to come to me with any type of questions or, you know, questionable material or anything like that. Like, you know, hey, I have a question. If you have a question about a joke or a set or something like that, you need to get 4 or 5 people's opinions, not just one. Yeah. Because one person is not going to be able to settle the dispute because then you're only appealing to one type of person in the crowd. Mm-hmm. You need to have 4 or 5 people give you different opinions, and then from that, figure out what they're all saying together, and then change your shit. You know what I mean? Yep. And it's because of comedy that I have been able to make the friends that I have. Before I got into comedy, I didn't have any gay friends. Before
I met you guys.
No.
I get it.
No. But before, like, legitimately, before I got into comedy, I was just this Republican that didn't have any gay friends. I wasn't against, you know, I wasn't homophobic or anything like that. I just didn't have any type of gay friends because I wasn't around any type of situation that brought me into the gay community. I didn't have any type of trans friends, anyone that was trans, and I didn't have anyone that was like anyone that was in part of the alternative lifestyle. And through comedy, I've been able to meet a lot of. I have 3 trans friends, a whole bunch of gay friends, and a whole bunch of people that live alternative lifestyles, and a whole bunch of people who think differently than I do that I wouldn't have had without comedy. And that is just a wonderful, beautiful, beautiful thing, because we may not agree on everything all the time, but you know what? At least we're hearing each other.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like that's the amazing thing about comedy. I mean, there are hardly any industries like it where...
And by the way, so your listeners know I'm not a Trump supporter, and I'm not really Republican anymore. I'm more of a moderate Democrat as my time has progressed.
Most importantly, me and Dolan aren't gay.
I told you guys before you guys figured it out.
Yes, but no, like that's what I love about comedy. No 2 people have the same background story. Everybody comes from different walks of life, and it's just amazing how it's through this everyone's gravitated towards each other, and we find like this common ground to help each other grow. And that's just fucking amazing. I never thought that I would get that, let alone in comedy before.
Yeah, I went from being a Republican minister to going ahead and following burlesque dancers and pole dancers at 5 nightclub in Madison, Wisconsin, which is an all gay club, you know, and they love me. Apparently,
you're a bear, bro.
Yeah. Oh my God, I clean up, man. Like they tip the performers there, and someone always threw a 20 in my bucket. I have no idea what I did to deserve it, but I love that person. Thank you. If you're
just you, baby.
Well, like you've also done shows at what was it, a sex camp?
I did do a show at a sex camp that was just amazing. Me, Marcos, Laura, Vicky Lynn, we were all together inside a group called Cream of the Rock Comedy. I know it sounds sexual, but it stood for comedy rules everything around me.
I don't know. I was just picturing Macho Man Randy Savage, Cream of the Crop.
Shut up.
Fucking dumb.
Welcome to Cream of the...
Welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cream of the Rock Comedy.
We just blew out someone's car speakers. Yeah, I'm sorry for that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was my bad. Anyway.
Yeah. Send all repair bills to Dalton Pfeiffer at
Just send it to his dad. He'll
Turtle
take it.
Donut Comedy.
It's Gary's address.
So here, the thing was, I had this idea. I was one night just Googling like random things around Wisconsin. The sex camp came up, and I got on their website, and I saw that they had like a list of entertainment. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what if we could get this show? And I saw that no comics had ever gotten on. And so I brought it up to the group, and I remember Vicky Lynn, shout out, said, get that fucking booking. Get that fucking booking. Let's get this. And I said, okay. So I literally called and emailed and did everything I could. And I finally got a call back from the owner at the time. And they said, okay, well, we want to hire you, but just so you know, this is a sex camp. I was like, yeah, I saw your website and everything like that. They're like, so people could be fucking while you go ahead and do your material. I was like, well, if we have to go to work, so shouldn't they? And they're like, you're perfect. All right, you're hired. And so we set up a date, and we went up there. And it was me, Marcos Laura, and Vicky Lynn, and we were driving up there and to Black River Falls, Wisconsin. And the entire time driving up to northern Wisconsin with two black women and a Mexican male, I had to keep convincing them that I wasn't taking them to a Klan rally. Like, this is how we go to the Klan. I was like, no, we're going to sex. No, I swear to God, that was just a ruse.
Shut up back there.
Yeah. So we finally get up there. 4 hours of the longest car trip, and we get like a tour of the property, and people are just, some people are naked, some people are clothed. As soon as we drive in, actually, Vicky sees this like one naked woman, and she's like, "Titties! I see titties!" I was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna have a very long night."
Oh,
Because we were staying the night here, and they were very nice. They put us up in the defunct orgy room.
I like orgery.
Orgery.
Yeah,
I like that
orgery.
too.
It makes you think of like a place where, like how they have places where
it's like an orgy with flowers.
Really harvest the orgy.
I mean, an orgy. Orgy can be anything.
It wasn't even the orgy room. It was the defunct orgy room. I have a brain disorder. This is why I don't do this. But so yeah, we put our stuff down. They did give us clean sheets on 3 beds. So there's there was Marcos and his wife, Vicky, and myself, and so they gave us 3 beds, 3 sheets. And I was just like, well, thank God for that. And we were walking around, and they were showing us the grounds, and people were fucking wherever they wanted to, and people were just walking by, and I saw the craziest thing I ever saw, which was an inflatable hot tub next to an RV, and inside this inflatable hot tub there was a 3 women and 2 guys, all above the age of 65.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this one guy walks by the women, unzips himself, and just lets his cock hang out. The 3 elderly women, just start going down on him and sucking his dick, all 3 of them together.
Do they have openings for the show?
The 2 guys immediately got up out of the water and started to masturbate onto the women's backs. At that point, I realized, because I was watching this like a National Geographic documentary, like, old people are flexible when they want to be. Like, if I go to that nursing home, you see little, Esther walking through with a walker. It's not because she has arthritis. It's just because she got plowed by 7 guys in the back room. Yeah. So I was like, fucking old people. It's a scam.
Fucking old people. It is.
So like you're about to take up a producing role, right?
Yeah, I am. Yes.
So when are we getting booked there?
Well, I have actually reached out to them for the last couple of years, and I don't think that they're going to be hiring me back, because the way that we were
Yeah, how did the show go?
It did not go well. It did not, because as it turns out, when you try to make people laugh their pants off, they don't really want to. You know, because the minute that if you go to a normal comedy show, if they don't like what you say up there, okay, they turn to their partner and they're like, "Wow, that one kind of sucked," or they say something, and then you hopefully get them back with the next bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's exactly how a comedy show works. Well, if you lost someone's interest, well, they're just going to go and start fucking their neighbor.
Yeah.
You know? So by the time the headliner, Marcos, goes up there, 3 people are fucking in the crowd. And when someone is literally fucking inside the crowd, and half the crowd is naked, and Marcos is like, "Hey, want to hear a joke about Pixar?" And they're like, "This seems more entertaining." You know, they didn't give a shit about us. You know,
Moral of the story: if I ever start bombing, just start fucking.
Yeah, it's fuck on stage. Just fuck on stage.
Hang on, babe. Take my balls out of your mouth. I gotta hear the punchline.
It worked for Adam Riley.
He took his balls out and went on stage. Come on, that's
what I'm saying.
Cock baseball.
Cock baseball.
In a studio. I officially joined Steen Adams Dick Club. Thank you guys. Thank you for applauding.
Okay, all right. Welcome,
not willingly, but it just happens. It's like,
welcome to the support group.
It's like the full moon. You just see it sometimes. Everyone goes through it.
You just turn and suddenly it's there.
It's there. I see it when I close my eyes.
Is your mouth open?
I appreciate that confidence.
Inadvertently.
Yeah.
Bro, I can't wait till I'm old enough to just show my dick to anybody.
You want to be old guy at the gym conference?
I was about to say, can you guys relate?
All you need is a gym membership.
Literally.
That's partially why I'm dreading going back to the gym now that they're open again.
Dude, they'll look you dead in the eye with their dick hanging out. "Hi, my name's Tom. I used to be a firefighter, blah, blah."
Dude, I'm just tying my shoes.
Yeah, dude, pretty much. Dude, they'll block the hallway with their cocks. They're like triceratops, like forming a fucking defensive line with their dicks. They'll make you walk around their dick.
I do just want to point out, I haven't said this. Gary is in the studio right now under a producer role, but he is playing Silent Bob right now, making gestures. And I wish that we had a camera in the studio right now.
I'm just saying that I am so glad that I no longer go to the YMCA as a child. Because... You know, I used to run through, I was so excited to get to the pool, so I'd run through the locker room, and I would sometimes trip and fall, and I was cock height. And, that's
staring down the barrel
never
of
a good type of, lottery to play.
No,
That's
is that shit loaded or not?
I have the refuse.
Every gun can be loaded.
Stun or kill.
I have the wear a shirt when I go to the pool confidence. Fucking, that's like elementary school.
I want to take you to Noah's Ark just so we can see those titties.
I'm just coming
bounce up on.
Dude, fucking, I dressed up for tonight, and this shirt is popping right now because of how much weight I've gained since COVID. I have titties now.
Am I the only person that's lost weight on COVID?
Yes, I've gained weight. So I have a little belly now. I'm usually in pretty good shape. So I have a belly, but abs under the belly. So when I flex, I have the form of abs, but they look like Hawaiian sweet rolls.
You made this joke last week, so I'm not gonna lie.
Did I make it last week?
You did.
Did I?
You did.
Oh no, I thought I just made it on Facebook.
You're rehashing material. Come on.
Oh boy. Sorry, I started it. Oh my god. I was literally thinking, don't say the same joke twice. That's literally what I thought beforehand. I'm like, oh fuck.
Welcome to Comedian's Corner, where we keep telling the same jokes repeatedly.
No.
Next week's guest, Robert Luigi Parr.
Okay, so
a big announcement to make.
He did listen to last week's episode.
Oh shit.
No, you're actually all right. If we're comparing this to food, the way these buttons are stretching right now, I look like a fucking rump roast with the ties
that you dropped on the carpet, and you have a dog, so the hair got stuck on it a little bit.
Oh, okay. So you've seen Malcolm in the Middle, huh?
No, I've seen your belly. Jesus Christ. But Robert, so maybe anyway.
I've seen your belly, but Robert.
Anyway, pulling the e-brake there. Pulling the e-brake, sharp left. So maybe you brought it up earlier, because you talked about some other shows earlier. What's your worst bombing?
Oh man.
The
Okay,
worst.
yeah, I wanted to ask
Like
this.
traumatic. Let's pull it out.
I wanted to know this. Yeah,
Love that Gary just said 9/11.
Oh my god.
Gary, we talked about yours last week. Come on.
Oh, my
man.
lord. Oof.
The worst bombing I ever had. There was this bar in Beloit that got my. I was handing out business cards. I was about a year in, and okay, there's two stories I want to tell. And I was about a year or two into comedy. I can't remember which, and this card or this bar just got a hold of my card for whatever reason. I can't remember how they got it. And they called me up and they said, "Hey, we saw this. We want you to come and do this comedy show." I said, "Okay, perfect." And so we negotiated the price, negotiated the time. I was going to do 15 minutes of comedy and get paid like $35 or something like that. Or I think it was like maybe $50. And so I show up and I show up right on time. They then tell me it's going to be $35 and I could have 2 drinks and I got to do 20. And I was like, okay, well, this is not what we agreed upon. They're like, but that's what we're going to do. And at that moment, I find out that I'm opening up for 6 rap groups. And I know that this was a very, this was a very urban type of bar. And that's not a problem with me. I've grown up in Beloit my entire life. And I have no problem with any types of group of people or being around any types of group of people because I love Beloit in that aspect that I could be with every type of person. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to try and give this a shot, but I can tell you that this isn't going to work out right now because of the fact that they came here to see rap and they don't want to see me in flannel try to tell dick jokes. So I go up there and, of course, the crowd listens to me for all of 2 minutes. And then they progressively talk over me to the point where I'm standing next to the bouncer because he's the only one that can hear me through the microphone. And he looks at me. He's like, if I were you, I would just run because they beat the shit out of me last week. And I was like, okay. So I just hand him the mic and leave.
Yeah.
I literally just left the bar.
Sometimes it's good to just cut your losses.
And so I left the bar. And then they called me up and they said, hey, sorry about that. We didn't prepare you right. We shouldn't have done that. Tell you what, we want to make it up to you. Next month, we actually want to do a full-on comedy show. We want you back. And I said, who's going to be a part of this? And so they threw out names like, Vicky Lynn and Marcos Laura. And I said, okay, if they're in, I'm in. And I show up, and it was an actual comedy show. And I go up there, and I had one of the best sets of my career. And because I was able to see what happened, that I went up there the first time, and I wasn't as energetic as the crowd needed. I wasn't as charismatic as the crowd needed. Mm-hmm. And so I put all that work into my next show, and I went up there, and I just took hold of the audience, took control, and literally just had all the energy I could, and going a mile a minute. And literally, as soon as I got off stage, one of the best shows in my career. Yeah. And that I turned from a bomb into a success story.
It's funny because the next question I had was what was your best show? What I think so cool about that and encapsulates kind of like the art of comedy is like your worst shows is like just that seed you plant.
The worst show, like I said, is that worst show is that you can learn so much from yourself and what happened if you allow it. Mm-hmm. If you just play it off like, no, the fucking audience wasn't right, then you're not going to learn anything. But if you take the time to really dive in yourself analytically, you can really start to make yourself a better comic, a better person, and just a better performer all the way around in whatever aspect that you do. The other bad bomb I ever had was God, I can't think of it now. Oh, I was by a year into it, by a year into comedy, a friend of a friend that owned the bar, which is never a good way to go, contacted me and said, "Hey, I heard you doing comedy. We want to bring you out here." It was in Cuba City, and I said, "Oh, sure." And I thought I knew enough to headline my own show. A big fucking mistake. Yeah. I was 6 years in before I ever headlined the show properly. Mm-hmm. And a year in, you don't know jack. And so I literally said, yeah, I can headline my own show. And I was really hell-bent on it. And I hired this guy with 12 years of experience to feature for me. And I hired another guy to come out there and host. Promised a 90-minute show. And the host never showed up. It's me and this one other guy. We both had to fill 90 minutes. And he said, how about I follow you? I said, I wanted the headline, like a little schoolgirl. Yeah. And he said, you could still do 45, but how about I close out the show? I have more experience. And I was like, okay. And so I went up there, and I realized that the 45 minutes I had wasn't 45 minutes at all. First 10, I had the audience. Yeah. The rest, the 35 I had afterwards, I had shit.
You lost them?
I literally was just reading off newspaper articles, thinking that they were headlines. Like it was that bad. It was just time filler. And he went up there and got the audience back, got the audience laughing. And when the show ended, the owner came up and paid him. I'm the one that booked it. I'm the one that produced it. And paid him and paid him the full amount and said, what you choose to do with this is up to you. Because if it wasn't for you, you wouldn't be being paid at all. And from there, the guy that I hired had to pay me. And that one hurt. That one stung a lot. Because it made you realize that the things that you're ready for, that you think you're ready for, you're not. Yeah. You're not ready for. You need to be humble. You need to, it humbled me a lot. And that was Ron Swanson. And I've never stopped ever since I've, seeing him. Every time I've seen him in the last 8 years, I'm like, hey, thanks for saving my ass in Cuba City. And he's like, that was 7 years ago. I said, thanks for saving my ass in Cuba City. Just because I will always tell him that.
Yeah.
So
that's good. Dalton, I talked about my worst bombing, which was probably Cardi B, and that was a talent show last episode. What was your
shit? I thought it was I thought we talked about the fountain.
Oh, we
talked about the fountain.
That's your worst. That's your worst.
I mean, yeah, that one was my worst. Like that one was the one that really hit me hard. Like now, I try not to think too much about when I bomb, because you've said this about my comedy. I tend to just power through my sets.
Yep.
And oftentimes I just I won't know that I've bombed until I got off stage. Yep. And other comics are like, dude, how are you feeling?
This has always been a backhanded compliment, but in terms of a comic, this is a great trait. You're really good at bombing. Bro, when we had the first early open mics where people didn't even come for comedy, you would go on stage and there'd be this elderly couple there, just confused and disgusted about what you're doing. You're just plowing.
At least he's talking about Betty White.
No, this was before Betty White Wellness Watch. I hadn't even set up the Facebook page yet. Well, but
you just set up the Facebook page.
I remember that exact mic because I've heard that routine a million times. So it's not.
I do
funny.
it every show now.
It's not funny anymore. But that time I laughed so.
Spoken like a true comic friend.
So fucking hard, not just at your bit, but how the crowd was reacting and how you just didn't give a fuck. I remember it was there was exaggerating 10 people at the bar. Me and our mutual friend are sitting at a table. We're watching you. Me and him are laughing our fucking asses off.
Yeah.
Everyone else is confused and bewildered, and they're like, what the fuck is going on right now? Why is this guy doing this skit?
So, this was while I was reintegrating myself back into society after leaving the post office, when I was super antisocial.
Yeah.
And, so I was like, no, now's my time to talk. You get to listen to me. Okay, so I remember the bit that I was doing. It was you call it the Trikel bit.
Yeah.
It's like, it just starts off like, bitches is always gonna be bitches, and bitches love ice cream. And then I just go on talking about like how to get a bitch, how to have safe sex with her, and how I smoke birth control.
It was like an episode of Tim and Eric.
Yeah, it was
super
fucking terrible. And that was the first time I ever met you. And Richard talked you up so much, like, dude, you gotta meet my friend Dalton. He's a lot funnier than me. And like, if you think I'm halfway decent, you should meet him.
I'm like, he has a car.
All of a sudden, I go ahead and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, this is the guy I need to check out. This is, and he's over there talking about like how he eats birth control for ice cream and he puts dental dams in his mouth, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And I was just like, and I think I even went up to you and I was just like, dude, you need to change your shit. And you're like, how? And I'm like, write better. Like, just throw out everything.
Yeah. Anything else.
Just do anything else. And then you came back, I think 2 weeks later, and you had a completely different bit, and I was just like, okay, now this I can work with, because you just weren't going up there with a bunch of high school related bullshit. You were actually going up there to try something. You weren't just throwing spaghetti at the wall. You were actually going up there with something that was relatable, something that was from the heart. And I was just like, all right, I can work with this now. I can, before that it was just like, I think dental dams go in your mouth, and I was just like, fuck
stupid
him.
shit, juvenile, like
yeah. I don't want him in my car. Put my gun in my face.
Yeah, I don't know how to respond.
What would you say, Robert? Though, like maybe it can be the same. If not, maybe your second best. But like, what's your best performance? Do you have like a Goldie performance that you look back?
I don't really have like a Goldie one performance, but I just look back at the fact that I was able to open up for the people that sorry guys, this is the brain thing coming through, but I've been so lucky in the people that I've been able to perform for. Okay, I've opened up for Timmy Williams from What Is Kids You Know. I've been able to open up and talk on Facebook with Mars Timms, from the voice of Jax from Mortal Kombat, and the head entertainer for the Chicago Bulls and the Rockford Ice Hogs and the Chicago Blackhawks, and not to mention just like little just things like Gregory Holloman from Strangers with Candy sending me a happy birthday thing on Facebook, because I worked with him once on a couple of times on a show. Yeah. Stuff like that, like, leads me to know, like, you've done something right in this business, that you've not had one good show, but you've had multiple good shows where people of national influence have taken notice of you. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I've always just admired, and will always cherish,
I think that's super cool. One thing I've struggled with as a comic in the last year is I always had like an imposter syndrome kind of idea, like, oh, I'm here because I'm lucky. I'm here because I know people. I'm here because of this. But when I finally figured out, like, I'm like, Richie, you're a fucking comic. Like, you're a professional. Like, literally, it was a couple months before the lockdown. It was like this year where I'm like, fuck, I got to like take this seriously. Was there a moment where you realized, maybe it was that first mic, where you're like, I'm a comic?
I really can't remember. I remember there was a time where I just kind of look back, and I don't remember offhand when it was, but I just remember there really was a time where I just said, okay, this is where it stops being a hobby. Mm-hmm. And I think it really stops being a hobby for you when you have the moments like you're describing earlier, when you are en route to a mic or a show and you want to be anywhere else that day. Yeah. And you're like, fuck me. I would literally pay someone $50 to just sit, so I could just sit at home and watch Netflix. I would rather be doing anything but doing this. But you still go up and do it because it's your job. Yeah. And, people are counting on you. People have gotten babysitters and people have gotten plans, put in place so they can go up there and see you perform, just you, whether it's you doing 10 minutes and somebody else doing the rest of the show. Someone's counting on you to be there, and that's when it stops being a hobby and starts being a job. And that when as soon as you walk through those doors, you put your game face on and you have a job to do, and you're gonna fight tooth and nail, come hell and high water to do that job. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I felt, And I had a charity show last year in January, and it was for the Monroe Theater Arts Guild.
Oh, yeah. You and I both auditioned for that.
Yeah, we have. Oh, and they thoroughly regretted their decision not bringing you in, by the way.
Fuck them. I'll audition again next year.
No, I will make sure that you're on next year.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll talk about that afterwards.
Cool beans.
But the thing is that, so I got on the show, and they asked me, like, one person knew I was this comic, and they said, all right, well, we're going to have these writing events. We want you to go and kind of push the other talent towards your expertise. I said, okay. So I go to these writing events. Everyone else there does comedy once a year for this show. I'm the only real comic that they have.
Yeah.
Besides, and then I find out later that they bring in 3 other comics who kind of do it part-time, but okay, that's fine. And I said, okay, well, look, they're asking me this idea on this bit or this idea on this joke. And I said, well, here's how I would direct it. And one person took my idea seriously. The other people just were like, well, I don't really know if this guy's for real. Because I was just kind of joking around with him, but at the same time trying to be serious. And then the rehearsal hit, and I went up there and said, all right, here's my stuff. And I went up there and put it on the line. And they said, wow, we didn't know that you actually had it in you to be a real comic. I said, yeah, because as soon as the spotlight is on me, the switch gets turned on, and all the bullshit goes away, and it is now go to work time. And I was like, that's what needs to happen.
Yep.
And as we did 4 shows for that charity, and every single time I went up there with a brand new set. They all did the exact same set. I went up there with a brand new set each time, and I literally said, all right, as soon as it's getting close to my time, I was like, all right, no one talk to me. I got to get in my own headspace, and I go out there, do my work, come off, and then we're good. I was like, but that's what you need to be. Mm-hmm. So
what I like about that, and that kind of reminds me, and it's funny because you would tell me, you'd be like, yeah, I did the show, and then I go back and I shadow box and get ready. And I thought that was a metaphor. I'm like, oh, he's just proverbially, whatever. That's his way of saying to hype things. So we do a show at, maybe I shouldn't say the bar, in Rockford. We'll call it a biker bar in Rockford, right?
Yeah.
And you even warned me before the show, and Andrew and I, who produced the show, even warned me too. They're like, listen, we don't know how this is going to go. This is a sketchy place.
It was the first ever comedy show at that bar.
And you told me, you're like, I bring 2 knives.
I brought 2 knives to that show
not
because
just one.
That bar specifically had the cops won't respond unless there is a shooting or a stabbing, and the cops go every weekend.
Yeah,
and we were literally performing between 2 Confederate flags, one of which is autographed. And no one would tell us why.
Oh, God. What member autographed that? But, like, you're talking about the show, real quick, this might get a little off topic. So, when you had the 2 knives, did you plan on, like, having one knife and in case you lost it, the other one, or were you dual-wielding knives? Like
no, in case I needed to throw one to you.
Of course, you're going to give the Mexican a knife. So we get to the show, right? And this fucking biker, I walk in, brown, wearing skinny jeans, a button up, and a fucking golf hat, flat hat. The fucking, I don't know what you want to call it. People
driver cap.
I look like a fucking porn star. I look like a...
Lesson number 36, dress for success.
Dress for success. I look like an art major from Madison. So I go in there completely. I walk in there. People have like biker jackets with all their fucking patches on. There's Confederate flags everywhere. We're out in the back smoking cigarettes. There's one comic comes out, and he's like, I saw two dudes doing coke on the toilet seat in the bathroom. Now their bathroom didn't even have a fucking door on the toilet stall. So that there's some kind of incident for that, whether they had to take it down or someone tore it down. And I'm like, welcome. Oh, I almost said the name. I'm like, welcome to blank, boys. I'm like, we made it. And then Robert's out back. We're all smoking cigarettes, and he's kind of in his own little corner thing. And I just see him just fucking punch the fence. He does a solid right across, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and that's when I realize, I'm like, oh, that's not a metaphor. He literally shadow boxes.
Yeah, for a long time, and for a type of major show, if I have the opportunity, I'll go outside and shadow box. That was my own thing, because it literally, number one, loosened me up. Yep. Number two, got my blood flowing. Mm-hmm. Got my heart rate up. And number three, if anyone saw me, I realized I was not going to look anywhere as ridiculous as I did in that moment. So, I was
intimidated.
I was just like, okay, you need to get in your headspace, because, like I told you guys, it's when you're going out to go onto a show, it feels like you're about ready to enter into a fight.
Yeah,
it really does. Fighters. Because I worked extensively with kickboxers for a very long time, and they always are backstage hyping themselves up for when their entrance music hits, because they got to be up there. You got to keep your body at that high peak level of performance, so that when your entrance music hits, you can go up there, you're fucking jacked, you're ready to tear your opponent apart. And you got to have that type of mindset in comedy as well, because as soon as like your name is announced or your music hits, you got to be able to get up there and just take control of the crowd. You have about 30 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds if you're lucky, to really get the crowd on your side. That 30 to 60 seconds is extremely important. Some people waste it by setting up the stage just properly, or putting the stand over here, or do whatever. But whatever you do is very crucial in that first 30 seconds, because it's going to tell the audience whether or not they're going to pay attention to you for the rest of the time that you're on stage. So me shadow boxing back there was me going ahead and hyping myself up, so that as soon as I got to the stage, I can just say, you know what? Here it is.
What's up, bitch?
Let's bring it on. Take control and just go from there.
I have to slightly disagree. And I don't think that's a ubiquitous thing in terms of like everyone's that style. Because for me, I did that at first. I had a really intense energy, but I found with my voice and my style, I'm better when I flow into the stage. I'm better like. I've had it before where I had too low energy, like my energy was too low, but
la-di-da, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Dude, bro, seriously, something that kind of helped my comedy is I got high on stage a couple times, and I'm like, this is more me. I'm not.
Oh, we were all laughing at you, not with you.
Yeah,
but
I can tell.
The thing is that, and that's what I keep telling you guys, is that's the magic of comedy, is that. This goes back to asking the opinions of 4 people rather than just one, because what works for one person does not work equally well for the next person.
Yeah.
I know that my comedy and my comedy style works well. It works best with a hyped up personality. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time
to you call it crackhead energy? Because no, I've had times where you've crushed her on stage and you're like, listen, Richard, I had to tap into crackhead Robert.
yeah. Because I literally feel like I need to go up there. Like, man, sometimes I come up to a venue and I have no energy left. But I have to go up there and leave every ounce of energy that I have still left in me on stage in order to get through the night.
Well, and I think that's the greatest feeling that you can get.
Oh man, when you get off stage and you're drained, and the crowd is pleased, it's fantastic.
I remember the first time I ever felt that. It was when we did the show last July at the Alzheimer's benefit.
Oh yeah.
We had to follow a fucking Elvis impersonator.
An
Elvis impersonator.
God fucking damn it!
I remember I went up there. I did like everything that I'd written over the past like 2 months. And when I walked off stage, like I was drenched in sweat, and I just felt like there was nothing left to say. Like, I walked off the fucking stage, and like, you know, a lot of it came from like, you know, I've tried your shadow boxing technique because like I do get, you know, that sense of anxiety before I go on stage, and I've had to find my own technique.
So what do you mean? You're saying like you were sweating, like you were so intense, like you were so hyped, like what?
No,
It's like I put so much mental and physical energy into doing that set for giving a great performance. Like, we only ended up performing to 6 fucking people who stuck around, but those people who stuck around, they got my all. And like, it was just like, you know, I felt like this was, I had to make something of this performance, you know? I had to put my all into it. And when I walked off that stage, it just felt fucking amazing.
You're the only person I've seen sweat on stage.
Well, I
That's
mean,
just
no,
because I don't do cardio.
I completely get it to like what he's talking about, because it's the energy that I wanted you both to kind of tap into, is that kind of energy to where you like, when you know that your name is about ready to be called, you have so many mixed emotions. Like you have a lot of doubt, you have a lot of excitement, you have a lot of anxiety, and they're all rushing through your veins. But if you can leave that all on stage, all that excitement, all that mental, and you walk off stage and you just kind of want to collapse because you're fucking tired, that means that you left everything on there for the audience, and the audience got all of that, and the audience is responding to that. Dude. And that is just a remarkable feeling. I have had that, thankfully, a lot in my career, and man, that is just something that I'm definitely going to miss. And that is probably one of the reasons why, even though I'm retiring, I'm going to have to stick around some open mics once in a while just to get that edge out, you know, just to, you know, make sure that it does, you know, I don't become homicidal. Yeah, because I need an outlet now, you know, and I need to do something, but I can't. But I know that with my, brain disorder, I'm not allowed to go ahead and become the focal point of a showcase,
dude. Like, so. Comedy's fucking cheaper than therapy, man.
It really is. And for everything that
and like it's free, and if you're lucky and if you're good, people will fucking pay you to do it. They will pay you to talk about what's fucking bothering you, and that is just fucking amazing.
It's empowering, it really is.
Robert, fucking what's next for you? We've talked about producing.
Yeah,
what's next, man?
The next thing is that really is the next thing, is just trying to hone my producing skills a little bit better. I've been producing shows in the Janesville area for a while now, and I'm just going to hopefully expand on that, get some more venues under our belts, and this way our Janesville scene doesn't have like 4 or 5 people that are trying to produce shows. We can have one producer speaking for all the voices, so that all of you guys can start working on your crafts instead of trying to, you know, scarce yourself too thin. You know, and I think that's just the best way for all of us to really work in sync with what's going on and take this to the next level, that to the point that it needs to be in.
Fuck yeah, dude, because we definitely need we need someone in that position. Like, we've been spending the past year, you know, building up that scene. Now we need kind of we need Captain America, Mr. Incredible, to swoop in here and fucking bring together this band of misfits and kind of give us a direction to go.
And that's what I plan on doing, is really trying to, and not even opening it up for comics, but trying to open it up for storytellers and poetry as well. You know, trying to really make a difference inside Janesville as a whole. You know, there's so much going on right now in Janesville that we really can, we could do so much as artists, that all it takes is just some understanding, some love, and just a voice. Yeah. So let's just get together, figure it out, and plan it in the direction that it needs to go, without all 6 people trying to figure out the different ways that they want to take it.
Mm-hmm. Combine it all into one voice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you like what you're listening to, fucking hit that subscribe button. Robert, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook at Robert Luigi Parr. I'm the only one on Facebook with that name. Thank you, parents. I appreciate that wholeheartedly, kind of. But yeah, that's literally the only social media I have. I don't have a Twitter or Instagram.
Old man. We gotta get you a TikTok.
I live somewhere right now that, and Dalton will attest to this, that does not have Wi-Fi or strong internet signal.
What it does have is a fucking plethora of gnats coming at you whenever you
It
step
is currently
outside.
gnat season, and right before I come into the show, I almost got bit by a snake.
That's what you call me now. I get it.
Right.
Call me now.
But no, if you ever need that outlet, fucking Bad Habits and Turtle Donut, we're here for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely.
I love coming on the show. I really do.
Open fucking invite, man.
Thank you.
Richard, where can people find you?
Obviously, this is our married site. Turtle Donut Comedy on Facebook. Richard Garcia on Facebook. Stu the Tomato Plant. Richard on Instagram. That's where you can find me.
All right, and then you can find me one more time with the stew.
Stu the Tomato Plant. Stu the Tomato Plant, which has been out of all the fucking work I put into comedy, a Facebook page about a tomato plant has been my biggest move so far. So I'm just rolling with it.
How is Stu doing? How's his new pot?
He's being babysat. His new he looks fresh as fuck. He's pretty humble about it, but he's being babysat right now.
Good.
Because I went camping this weekend and I've been too drunk to pick him up. I'm just being honest. I'm not here to lie. I'm here to judge.
Richie Garcia, deadbeat plant dad.
I went out for a pack of smokes and just never came back.
All right. You can find me, Turtle Donut Comedy, on Instagram, Facebook. Dalton James Pfeiffer on Facebook. Betty White Wellness Watch. Welcome to Betty White Wellness Watch, the show within a show where we take a break from all the goofs and laughs and check in on the well-being of America's golden girl. She's fine, you guys. She's fine. All right.
Yay!
Hey, Robert, what was your favorite part of the show?
When you ask me questions about myself.
Any closing...
No more fucks to give. My fucks have runneth dry. I've tried to go fuck shopping, but there's no fucks left to buy. I've no more fucks to give, though more fucks I've tried to get. I'm over my fuck budget and I'm now in fucking debt.